This is the latest iPhone 17 Pro, and this is a 5-year-old iPhone mini. This iPhone mini is one of my favorite phones ever made, mostly because of the size and form factor. Not only is it really amazing for one-handed use, but it also discourages you from spending too much time doom scrolling on it because of the screen size. It's one of the reasons this phone has maintained a cult following even 5 years later. But as someone who recently upgraded from the iPhone mini to the 17 Pro, I was really curious to test how big of a difference there really is. So in this video, I want to compare the 17 Pro to the iPhone mini and see if it's worth upgrading based on 3 main things that I use my phone for. The first is the battery life, especially with using Google Maps. The second is a camera test, especially in daily use. And the third is how easy it is to use modern apps. So the first one, we're gonna go outside and we're gonna test using Google Maps and see how much it drains the battery life. So I have both the iPhone 17 Pro and the iPhone mini charged to 100% right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to a park, have both of the phones on at full brightness, and see how much it drains the battery life.
Yeah, so it's about 20 minutes away, like a 20-minute, including the walk. Let's see how much battery it drains. Okay. And then along the way, I'm also going to take some photos, so that in the next section, which will be the camera section, we can compare what the photos look like and how different they are. Even just holding this, it kind of makes me nostalgic of using the iPhone mini. This is just such a cute form factor. But I'm also pretty used to the 17 Pro, which it did take me a while to get used to this. All right, so we've arrived at this place. It's called Futako Tamagawa. It's one of my favorite places in Tokyo because this is the river. Super beautiful and basically no tourists. But anyway, so we got here with the help of Google Maps. Originally it was supposed to be a 30-minute commute from the park that we were at, but it ended up taking us an hour just because we took a slower train. But yeah, let's look at the battery life. So the iPhone 17 is at 94%.
Wow.
So super strong. And then the iPhone mini is at 78%. The mini uses about 4 times more battery life than the 17 Pro. So at least for me, like somewhat new to Tokyo, in the beginning when I used the mini, it was pretty much impossible because the phone would just keep dying whenever I was navigating somewhere. And so switching to the 17 Pro has helped a lot with that. But when I was in America, this worked totally fine because I almost never needed to use Google Maps. Like I knew how to drive to most of the places that I would usually go to. So yeah, depends on your usage. I also wanted to use Google Maps and have this sort of real life battery test because I think a lot of the videos that I saw when I was considering whether or not to upgrade to the 17 Pro, they were kind of like in these isolated situations where someone would play a video for 10 hours, which is kind of unrealistic. It is surprising though that after an hour it only used 7% of battery life with the screen on pretty much the entire time, and that this used like 22% battery. The one thing I do really like about the mini that I felt again when I was just using this today is that the form factor is just perfect. Like this is the correct size for a phone, whereas this just feels a little bit too big, but it's kind of like the trade-off for getting 4 times better battery life. As a former iPhone mini user, you basically have to have all these battery life workarounds. If you're going on an extended trip, then you probably have to bring a battery pack or at least know where you can charge your phone. So at least for the 17 Pro, it's been really nice. The time that I've been using it, at least for the last 60 to 90 days that I've been using it, that I pretty much never have to bring a battery life. Yeah, now that I'm here, the next thing I want to test is the cameras on these devices because at least for the 17 Pro, that's the primary selling point. It has just really high definition cameras. There's 3 of them. This one has 2 of them. Yeah, I'm going to take some photos. I'm going to put them side by side and you can see if you can guess which one is the 17, which one is the mini, and also take some videos after that. All right, let's do it.
So here I am not trying to test the extreme limits of these cameras, which if you do, then you'll definitely see that the 17 Pro is better. But I just want to test it for daily use. I think this is a thing that a lot of tech videos or tech channels miss, is just comparing daily photos. So I'm going to take a bunch of different photos and also short videos using both of these devices. And you can see if you can figure out which one is the iPhone mini and the iPhone 17 Pro. All right, this is the first photo and this is the second photo. Personally, I think the one on the right looks better, and it turns out to be the iPhone mini. This is pretty surprising to me. Even close up, it kind of looks better on the iPhone mini. This is the second photo. This looks pretty identical to me, except that there's just higher contrast and exposure on the right one. And that one is the iPhone 17 Pro. I think this next one is pretty obvious. The left one is the iPhone 17 Pro and the right one is the iPhone mini. But I actually kind of like the colors on the iPhone mini. The left one here is the 17 Pro and the right one is the iPhone mini. Again, I kind of prefer the iPhone mini. For some reason, it's a little bit crisper. All right, for the last one, it's a video. So this is the first one, this is the second one. And the one on the right is iPhone mini and the one on the left is the 17 Pro. Yeah, so basically from this test, I can see that even though the cameras have gone a long way and they have made a ton of major improvements, for daily use, if you're just taking random photos, there really isn't that big of a difference. And in some ways, I actually prefer the iPhone mini because it has a more compact camera lens, so it doesn't actually bulge out compared to the 17 Pro or even just the regular 17. Now, the third thing I want to compare is the ease of use when it comes to launching different apps. So out of the two phones here, I want to compare launching different apps and the speed at which it takes to launch different apps. Safari, Apple Pay, and see whether or not there's a big difference, because this one has a significantly more advanced processor than this one, which is 5 or 6 years old. Okay, let's test the speed for some basic things. So first, let's load up a website. So New York Times. So pretty much the same. The iPhone 17 was faster by a little bit. Now, okay, next let's try launching an app like Obsidian. Boom. So you can see it's almost instant on 17 Pro, just a little bit slower on the iPhone mini, but still not really a big difference. Okay, let's try the App Store. So 3, 2, 1. Pretty much exactly the same. It was even faster on the iPhone mini. What about the camera? That's pretty much exactly the same. Maybe a little bit faster on the iPhone mini. All right, so in terms of launching apps, it's pretty much exactly the same. All right, now let's try Apple Pay. Boom. Okay, so I get them both unlocked. Okay, that's like exactly the same. Let's say maybe the biggest difference is just the difference between the 60 Hz display and the 120 Hz display. Like you can really kind of feel the difference, but it's really just a marginal improvement and it doesn't even feel that slow on the iPhone mini. So as far as I can tell, there's pretty much very marginal difference between the iPhone 17 Pro and the iPhone mini for most apps. Probably the biggest difference I'd feel is between the 60 Hz display and the 120 Hz display, but it's still a very marginal improvement. I think for most things, especially if you use your phone as a utility device, there's not going to be that big of a jump in improvement. When I was using my iPhone mini, there are some situations that I couldn't really replicate here where maybe apps would be a little bit more buggy or they would crash. But overall, I would say that the experience is pretty similar, except for the fact that the iPhone 17 just has snappier animations because of the display. But with that being said, I did have situations in the past where the iPhone mini would overheat and become super laggy and slow. And I never had that in the past 2 months since I've been using the iPhone 17 Pro. Another thing I realized, especially when I was doing a lot of app development last year, is that most of the apps that you try, they're not going to be optimized for the performance on iPhone mini, especially since this is already a 5-year-old phone. So most of the apps that you use are going to be optimized for the latest phone. And so when you use it on this phone, a lot of times it'll be more laggy or it'll crash, or sometimes it just even won't work at all. But if you mostly use your phone for utilitarian purposes, like you do things in Safari, you use your phone mostly for making calls and connecting with people, or just having essential apps, there's not really that big of a difference compared to the 17 Pro. In a previous video, I kind of talked about the concept of buy for life. And while I don't really think that exists for phones and computers because they're advancing so quickly, I do think that Apple makes more of an effort compared to other companies to make their phones last for a long time. Like there are still a lot of people using the iPhone mini, even though this came out 5 years ago. And I've even seen a lot of people using way older phones than this today. Like I've seen people using iPhone X last week. So the iPhone mini is definitely still a solid contender for a utilitarian phone, especially if you want something with a compact form factor that makes a lot of sense for a phone. But it's probably not ideal if you're somebody that uses a lot of modern apps and you're constantly using your phone. If, on the other hand, you actually want to use your phone less, I made a video about how you can reduce your screen time that you can check out right here. Let me know what you think of this video. This is sort of my attempt at making a more mainstream tech video. So yeah, let me know your feedback and I'll see you next video. Let's get it.